Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the absolute core of customer engagement. At first glance, this stuff might seem, well, kind of basic, but there's actually a super profound philosophy here when it comes to building real, lasting relationships in sales. We're not just talking about pipelines and quotas today. We're focusing on the actual human element that drives all those numbers. So let's jump right in. Listen to your customers with heart and soul. I really want you to take a second and let that sink in. It's definitely not your typical dry corporate jargon, right? It's this powerful emotional hook that completely grounds everything we're going to unpack in this explainer. Before we even touch on strategy or, closing deals, we absolutely have to start right here with empathy, with heart, and with soul. It really forces us to ask ourselves, are we just hearing our customers as mere data points, or are we actually listening to them as real people?
All right, so here's our masterclass roadmap for today. First, listening with heart. Second, finding the customer's voice. Third, the power of networking. Fourth, roles in the process. And finally, number 5, the engagement ecosystem. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, listening with heart. So, the biggest hurdle we have to clear right off the bat is capturing the raw, totally unfiltered voice of the customer. Because, let's be honest, so often in business we build these products or design these elaborate pitches based entirely on what we assume they want. We kind of get stuck talking in our own little echo chambers. But we need to completely strip that away to find out exactly what customers are actually saying. Not what we think they're saying, and definitely not what some aggregated market research report tells us they're saying. We want their actual lived, spoken reality. That is absolutely the foundational step here.
Moving right along to Section 2, finding the customer's voice. Look, good intentions are fantastic, but they desperately need a practical application. So how do we actually capture what the customer is saying? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I want you to really evaluate your own processes for a second. If I asked you right now to show me the exact unfiltered thoughts of your top 3 clients, could you actually do it? And more importantly, do you have a true systematic way of gathering that information, or are you kind of just relying on luck and maybe a few good phone calls? We need a definitive answer here. Which brings us to our solution in Section 3, the power of networking. All right, so the ultimate solution to finding that authentic voice is networking. But hold on, in this specific context, networking is definitely not about just handing out business cards at some fancy cocktail hour. Actually, scratch that. It's more like it's the active, definitive process of genuinely engaging with your customers. It means literally stepping right into their world, initiating real conversations, and building the feedback loops that are totally necessary to pull off that whole heart and soul listening we just talked about. Basically, it completely bridges the gap between just caring about your customer and actually gathering their real-world insights.
Okay, Section 4, roles in the process. So we've covered the what and the how, right? But what about the who? Because doing this kind of networking at scale requires very specific people, perfectly positioned. Let's look at the structure here. We have independent reps, and then managers, and then, managers again. This double mention, this little echo in the source material, is actually super fascinating. You see, while your independent reps are out there grinding on the front lines, literally being the face of the company, repeating managers twice emphasizes their absolute overwhelming importance in this entire system. It basically implies that listening with heart and soul, that's not just a solo sport. It requires massive structural support, continuous oversight, and truly dedicated management to make sure that a culture of real engagement actually survives and thrives. The managers are literally the glue holding this whole empathy-driven network together.
And that leads us to our final piece, Section 5, the engagement ecosystem.
This is where the whole shebang comes together. It marries that emotional hook with the structural roles we just laid out, creating a totally complete, functional system. Step 1, we start with the soul. We adopt that mindset of deep, empathetic listening. Step 2, we put it into action. We deploy networking as our core strategic tool to actually uncover the customer's voice. And finally, Step 3, we lock it all down with a defined structure. We align those independent reps and lean heavily, and I mean heavily, on our managers to sustain the entire process. Honestly, it's just a beautiful, seamless transition from an abstract philosophy right into a tangible, working business ecosystem. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. Does everyone in your sales process actually listen with heart and soul? Think about it. From your independent reps on the ground all the way up to your management team,
Is that genuine emotional commitment really present? I highly encourage you to go evaluate your pipelines today and ask yourself if you're truly capturing the authentic voice of your customer. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep learning out there, and I will catch you in the next one.